And welcome back, everybody, to part 3 of our Warrior solo run. As before, we're using the same setup: Immortal set for health regen, Barbed nails for knockdown stagger, Warrior's band for Calamitous lunge. It also has Arc of Obliteration on it, but we're not going to use that ability. Weapons: Bitter End, Dragon's Flight, which increases damage to dragons, Dwells in Light for holy damage, Rusted for Torpor, and Gryphic Gold for silence. Getting started, Rotwood Depository. I can hear Saurian, which means we got the favorable conditions for Warrior, which means we did not get ghosts. The ghosts themselves, not really a problem. We have Dwells in Light. It actually does pretty good damage to them, along with our Acuity augment that we actually have on. Our other augments will be listed down below. They were also listed in part 1 of this journey. But pretty happy we got this now. Usually I have to backtrack later to get this thing to spawn, but Elder Ogres are probably one of my favorite things to fight as a warrior. It's just a lot of fun, in my opinion, to get our knockdowns and use Pommel bash and all that stuff. Unfortunately, we do a lot of damage, so it really speeds through the fight, but that's okay. I really like the longer fights. But anyway, as I was saying about the ghost configuration, though, our concern isn't actually the ghost, it's the living armor. That's a great example of us using Pommel bash. That's why we've had it on the bar this whole time. We want Pommel bash for that move right there, defensive curl. Elder Ogre is no longer torpored, so we're going to switch back to Rusted to reapply it. Under 4 health bars, so it is entering its enraged state. But yeah, the living armor that would be at the end of the ghost configuration is really where our trouble comes in. Not because living armor are so terrible, they are bad, but it's the arena that we have to fight it in. The arena is pretty bad. You saw me hesitate there before hitting it again. If it starts falling backwards, because it's torpored, it takes so long. If I jump up and hit it, sometimes what'll happen is it'll get staggered and it'll stay upright. I want it to fall down because I do more damage to it when it's fallen. Now I know, because I have the Saurian configuration, that I do get these Goblin Shamans. Usually, if you're fast and you know that these Shamans are going to be here, you can actually sprint right to that ladder and climb before they get their first casts off. It's really tight timing, so like you might get all the way up there as they are getting the cast off, so you barely step off the ladder in time. But in that case, I was actually slow. It's a little bit surprising because, like I said, I almost always succeed there. It's very consistent if you're fast, but I guess I wasn't fast today, so that's okay. We survive. We got hit by a Frigger and a Levin, and it did about half of our health, so scary stuff, but we're good. Here, I'm gonna target the fire, the Ingle, and then the Frazzle. The reason I go to ice second is because it is Frazzle. Because we're standing in water, I'm guaranteed to get frozen if that one hits me. It's not Frigger where I can dodge it, it's Frazzle where he'll just do a gust of polar wind at me, basically. But again, because I'm standing in ankle-deep water there, it will freeze me automatically. And I don't want that, so we hit Ingle because it's far more dangerous, and then we immediately turn and hit Frazzle. Levins we can dodge, so we had no fears about that one. And then, of course, the Saurians at the end. I'm not worried about the Saurians. They don't cast anything at us. They just, like, try and hit us, and they cast Spell Screen on themselves. But, like, I'm not really worried about them getting additional defenses as a warrior, simply because we far outpace it with our damage. Once again, we want to deal with the Goblin Shamans first, because they actually cast things at us. Ring of Desiccation, just so that we can still see. We got spat upon by the Saurian Sage, and that's why we got drenched in the first place. So that guy was releasing his block. If they remain blocking, you can also use Pommel Bash there, and it staggers them. In this case, like I said, he was stopping his block at the same time I went for the Pommel Bash, so we didn't stagger him in any way. But that is... that's another good use for Pommel Bash. This configuration, we got the Gold and Silver Knights. That is nice because the 2 attempts before this, both times we had Garm the moment we entered this room. This configuration actually can still have Garm, so that doesn't necessarily mean we don't get it, but having them right here at the entryway is rough. If we get Garm later, it's not really that bad because we can kind of choke them in the hallway. It's not a big deal. It's very effective, very consistent. But this one here, like, there's only really one recourse we have. It's to stand on the lion statue that we're about to walk past. That one there. And it just kind of sucks. They can still hit us a little bit. We don't hit them very effectively. We almost never die, but we also take some damage. It's not fun. Whereas if we get them later, we can kind of pull them into this hallway, kind of by the doorway. And they'll get caught on corners and stuff if we're in the way. We can torpor them and then kind of wail on them instead. Much less risky. Because we have this configuration, I know we're going to have 2 Eliminators as well as 3 Sirens in the next part here. We are going to want to kill the Sirens first because the Sirens will actually heal the Eliminators if I try and work on the Eliminators first. The Eliminators being a pair is a little bit scary because if they don't sync up their dashes, we can kind of get hit in ways we don't want. Yeah, and so now they're getting healed. Like, that one went back up to full health, but it was missing a little bit of health before. Yeah. Again, it went right back up to full health. That's why we need to kill the Sirens before we deal with anything else. The Sirens themselves aren't very scary to us. It just, you know, it just prevents us from really doing anything to these guys. They can stagger us, which is dangerous when we're fighting Eliminators, because if Eliminators knock us down, obviously we can die to the stomp in one hit regardless. But for the most part, the Sirens are not a big concern. We just need to make sure they're dead. Now that they are, we can work on these guys. As I said before, 2 Eliminators is still fairly scary because we don't want them to have a moment where one charges and then the other one charges and we can't knock both of them down. Considering how easy they are to knock down, we want to make it so that we get the knockdowns consistently, but we also don't want a situation where we put ourselves in a position where knocking one down versus the other is hard. Just like here, we've got a weird timing. That one stopped short and tried to hit us with the hammer instead. I hate it when they do that because a lot of times you'll try and swing at them, they'll stop short, you won't hit them, so you don't get the stagger or the knockdown, but then they swing right after you and then they knock you down. It's very unfortunate. I'm pretty sure we actually see that in the Fallen City later, where the same Eliminator does that move like 3 times to me in a row, and each time I think he's going to follow through with the charge. And I get hit each time. It almost led to our death in what was leading up to being a very good run. But it's okay. We do manage to pull it out. But as you see, I'm kind of trying to get them to charge at different times. You'll see sometimes I'll stay close to them a little longer than I normally would when it's solo. That's because I want them to try and hit me with their hammer instead of charging me. Because if one's further away, it might charge, whereas the other one tries to hit me with its hammer. If it starts trying to hit me with its hammer and I step away, the charge one is the only one running at me. And it's easy to knock down 1 at a time. Knocking down 2 at a time can be tricky depending on like the pacing and the spacing that they have. If they're all like stacked on each other running at the same time, you can knock down plenty at the same time. It feels super satisfying, but if there's just enough space in between them, it's really hard to get that off. Fortunately here, we don't really run into much of a problem. It's pretty comfortable, in fact. Here we're going to have the leap worms. We have avoided dealing with critters a lot of time just by pathing. Here we can't really do that, so we will kill them. As much as I don't like them. An example of us evading critters is going to be actually the next room has leap worms that fall down in the Bloodless Stockades if we go through the cages to our right. Instead, we're going to jump around to the left and kill the spiders instead. The reason for that is, one, spiders are much more friendly than leap worms. But two, the leap worms in my game like kind of spawn in and then despawn, and then they come back later, and it's super weird. So I would just rather avoid that entirely. Kill these guys instead. These guys are very consistent as far as like spawning in correctly. It's kind of like in the Fortress of Remembrance, if you get the undead configuration, you can get the Banshee and the 2 stout undead in that one room. And sometimes they just don't spawn. Sometimes they do. It's like that, only it's very consistent for the leap worms that they spawn, they just also despawn at the same time in my game. I don't know why. Here I'm going to kill all of the mages first. The reason for that is the mages can cast heal spells for the ogres. I don't want them to heal the ogres. It's just a waste of time. I was considering there whether I wanted to torpor them, but realistically these guys have so little health that by the time I finish torporing them, they'd probably be fairly close to lower in health anyway. So I might as well just hit them. It's not like these guys are going to deal that much damage to me anyhow. And like that hit there, because we hit him on the eye, was literally like 60% of a health bar. That one was like 70% because we got another nice hit. Maybe even more than 70. Obviously now we're hitting his back, shoulder, so we're only doing like, I don't know, 1/6 of a health bar. Alright, he never turned around, so that's fine. This configuration also can give us death. So death can spawn. We don't hear death yet, so that's fine. We can just deal with these bats for now. But we're also going to have Gore Cyclops in the next room. Gore Cyclops, a little bit harder to hit the face as a warrior. We can't just like reach it by a normal jump attack. So those guys we will torpor for sure, just to give us a little bit more safety. They also have much more health than the Cyclops that we just saw. So we actually get the value out of torpor, whereas we don't really get much out of the other one. I want to kill the Vile Eyes first. Not that I'm afraid of the Vile Eyes, it's just the Vile Eyes are... I have to pay attention to them while I'm fighting him. I don't want to have to do that. Here, I'm mostly trying to make sure I don't get grabbed. The Gore Cyclops can grab you, and it does a lot of damage. It's not fun. Like I said, I'm not very quick with my toggle escapes, and we don't have aggression, so... we're gonna just avoid it. If I stand right in front of him, we can bait it out. And I have in the past baited it out, because when he does the grab, he lowers his face down. And then if he doesn't have you, he lowers his face again. So it's actually a pretty convenient and consistent you know, lure to give you more favorable hits. But I'd also just, it doesn't really matter. We do pretty good damage without it. It would be faster, obviously, if I successfully did that. But again, I'm not worried about it. As I said in part 1, I'm a fairly risk-averse player. If there's a risk that I might mess that up, I'd rather just not bother and do the thing that I know is going to work. So here we can get to the head, we can do a jumping heavy like I said before. It does kind of the same amount of damage as the light, but... Alright, the reason we're going this way is because I want to actually lure the Gore Cyclops this way. The reason for that is exclusively because of the depth of the water. I don't want to have to put the Ring of Desiccation on in order to avoid my lantern from going out. If you're in the kind of side path that he's in, there's like not a very steep grade, but there's a kind of neutral grade. I guess neutral's the wrong word. It's a gentle grade. But because of that, there's actually some areas where the water's a little bit deeper, and our lantern will get wet. And I don't want that. I would much rather fight him up here where the water's about the same depth the whole way. I really should draw him a little further, but it's okay. But yeah, I'm luring him this way so that I don't have to worry about my lantern going out, because I would much rather have the Barbed Nails equipped than the Ring of Desiccation, because the Stagger's nice. But see there, water, we stepped forward just a little bit more and the water was too deep. You know, I'm gonna put the Barbed Nails on out of vain hope that it works out. It doesn't, if I remember correctly. Look at that Moonbeam gem that I've never picked up. It's kind of funny. There it is. Yep, it's already gone. Like I said, we're on that side. It's not... I should know better. But I'm already in the middle of fighting him, so I don't really want to move to another location and lure him again. Especially if he's Torpor. It's going to take much longer for him to come over to us while he's Torpor. Whereas this way I get to just keep wailing on him. Savage Lunge just because we can. It's not necessarily better. It's just something to do. We've done enough jumping lights, jumping heavies. Savage Lunge is it's just another ability we get to play with. So we'll do that, especially when we have so much stamina, right? Sparyard to Scant Mercy can be pretty frustrating. The Frost Dragons are what we want here. One, we do a lot of damage with that to them with physical damage. Two, they're very easy to debilitate. We can debilitate them with both Silence and Torpor. The fire ones we can just Torpor. I mean, we can silence them, but they don't cast anything, so it's not really useful. But what's more annoying about the fire ones is they are more apt to try and hit you physically. So when dealing with two of them, if you're on the ground with both of them, they'll constantly charge at you and breathe fire at you, and we don't really want that. I hit his heart because I know it'll interrupt the cast. I don't want to have to deal with the bow live. I got one silenced. I want to get the other one. We're hitting the wings because it's a bigger target for the debilitations. It's much more consistent to hit. Sometimes when you try and hit the heart, you'll hit like the shoulder and not hit the damage proc for it. There we've got the one that we want to wail on, Torpor. So now that it's Torpor, we'll go ahead and hit the heart. Yes, we can freeze, and it's a little bit more dangerous because there are two dragons. If we freeze when there's only one dragon, we're not really that worried because the likelihood that it hits us is pretty low, especially while it's Torpored. With two, it's a little bit higher because there is a second one, and the second one's not Torpored. But we're willing to risk it simply because of how much additional damage it does, and we do great damage to these ones. We're not going to use Calamitous Lunge here, mostly because there is that second dragon. If there was only one dragon, we would probably Calamitous Lunge there. We've switched dragons because I know that silence is going to wear off soon, and I want to have the health bar for the correct one active for that. And by active, I mean has the one displayed at the top of the screen. Because if it's not, I won't see it as quickly as possible. I know that the sequence of dragons in which I attacked them was the the one we silence first, and then this one we silence second, obviously. That is just logic. So I want to return to the first dragon when I do that, even though the second dragon is the one that's weaker. So that's why we switched to it a little bit early. And again, we'll follow the same pattern. Torpor the dragon, and then we'll switch back to Dragon's Flight. Once they're both silenced, and this one is Torpored. That guy's over there Beyblading. And our goal is just to knock him down. Silence becomes not super necessary with the faster vocations to deal damage to these guys. For instance, with the Mystic Knight, we did not Mystic Knight, Magic Archer, we did not silence these guys because we deal enough damage quickly that it's not a huge issue. However, here, we do want to silence them because we're not as mobile, right? If they cast something at us, our evasion is not, we can't forward roll to evade. We have to like physically move our body or use Exit Slash. Exit Slash's iframes are decent, but not impressive. Especially when multiple things are cast at us. So we do want to keep them silenced. It just adds a safety. Torpor also gets a safety, but it's not crucial. I could choose not to torpor him right now, but it's not. There's so little that I lose for taking the time to torpor him. It took us 2 heavy attacks. It also gives me way more time in order to wail on this guy's heart. The most important time to silence the dragon is actually when it's lower health. When it's below 4 health bars, it can heal itself. And when it heals itself, I think it gets like 3 health bars back each time. So we don't want to be in a situation where we have the Frostworm unsilenced and it's low health. So whenever it's low health, you'll see I'll try and wail on it real quickly, or I'll try and silence it as fast as possible. Because neither circumstance is, either circumstance prevents them from being a problem for us. So here we got the configuration that's probably a little bit easier. We don't have to lure the living armors separately. That being said, luring the living armors are easier to separate them than the eliminators, but we've already demonstrated a few different times that we can fight multiple eliminators at the same time. What's also nice is this area is fairly linear, so we get to do it multiple times. Like we can pull them one direction and pull them another direction if they cluster again. Here, our goal is going to be to knock down the Drake first. The Drake is going to bother us if we try fighting the first. If we try fighting the living armors first, the Drake actually will start casting at us and try flying and breathing at us and stuff like that. It's a nuisance. Usually it doesn't actually get us killed or anything, but it does give us some problems. Here, I'm going to just hit the heart because I want it to stagger. The next time, you'll see a different strategy. Next time, what we'll do when he falls down is we'll torpor him to give us more time in order to deal damage to him. But I don't want to torpor him the first time because the first time I hit the heart, he's going to pop up immediately. And I don't want that. So we hit the heart there. I don't know if you guys can hear my phone going off. We are getting a new puppy. We're rescuing another dog. And the rescue people are trying to coordinate when we receive the dog tomorrow. So that's what's happening. I apologize. It shouldn't be very loud though, if you do. And here's exactly what I meant. We torpor the dragon once we knock him down, and then we're gonna wail on him on the heart. It took us so long to recover there, I just jumped off. I didn't want to be up in the air. You'll see I'll move all the way over here. That's because we have to bait out his breath attack. Once he breathes, we are allowed to sprint forward and then hit his tail. But if we start like walking towards him now, he's just going to keep backing up and preventing us from reaching him. The last thing I want is for him to back up far enough that his tail is inside the building. Because the tail is willing to clip through the building, no problems. Got the Torpor again. Now we'll grab onto his back. Obviously, jumping light attacks are pretty good here. We do a lot of damage, but like we also just do so much damage to the heart. The problem with jumping light attacks is sometimes we'll just like hit the wing instead of the heart because the game is really goofy. I hate that when you try and grab, it often will spin you like that. That was not a circumstance of me trying to grab the wing. It's just like, for whatever reason, the game likes to spin me around when I try and do the grab animation, so I just miss the body I'm trying to hit. But that's okay. We just rode up with him and we murdered him this way. So now that the dragon's dead, we've basically unlocked the arena that we're fighting in. We can now lure anything we want here. So the way we're going to deal with living armor is we're going to lure the first one back this way. Or I guess forward this way, because this is the forward part of the room. So we're going to lure this one over here. I break that crate, or that cart rather, so that it doesn't get in my way while I'm trying to backpedal. But our goal now is just to lure the living armor, which decides it's break time. Come on, there we go. To lure the living armor so that it chases us into that arena that we just fought the dragon, because it gives us enough room to evade. And we're going to need room to evade as a warrior, because our evasion is not particularly good for certain abilities. Like, we can exit slash that, but then we can't hit him because we're in front, right? We need to be behind him to hit him. So most of the time we're going to want to evade by running behind him, by simply moving our body. Mr. Miyagi said best defense, no be there. That's pretty accurate here. The best defense we can have is to just not be where he's trying to hit us. Especially since we don't win unless we also attack. So you'll see I'll often strafe, and then I'll try and get behind him, get a nice jump attack in, and then I'll back up because I don't want him to do full moon slash. You can exit his slash that move. We actually lost a run because I failed the exit his slash on that move, and it did like 90% of my health. It left me with like 1,000, and then like I was so baffled that I played like terrible afterwards, and he just hit us and I died. Unfortunately, now is the less fun part. It's very quick to get through the first 4.5 health bars as a warrior because we deal so much damage, even though they have like a 70%, sorry, they have a 30% damage reduction to slash damage versus bludgeoning. Even though we're using slash damage, and so we're doing less damage with the bitter end, they are so much more weaker for us because our strength is so high that we just deal so much physical damage to them. And our magic is about half, actually it's less than half of what our, I think we have like 1,300 magic stat with this sword, whereas we had like 4k strength with the bitter end. So we just deal so little damage, and these guys have so much health in defense that it just takes a very long time. This is why in the previous rooms I was saying that ghosts aren't the problem, it's the fact that the ghost configuration often is accompanied by living armor. But we don't want that because it's just a very arduous fight where one mistake is like, usually it's like 1,500 health if you're just hit by the sword. And if you make a couple mistakes, it's rough. This is the room that has the best arena for fighting these guys, so I'm actually very happy we didn't get them before. We can deal with them in the previous rooms. We've done it on stream plenty of times, but it is frustrating. Very rarely do we avoid taking damage for very long in the other rooms, and so we end up leaving the room with not as much health as we will have here when we're done fighting these guys. To balance it, this room has the better arenas, but it also has more living armors for us to deal with. So, you know, it's a trade. If we had gotten living armors in the Bloodless Stockades, the way we fight them is we actually run past them to lure them to the room where the door is that leads to the Sparyard of Scant Mercy, because that's the only big area that's a nice platform that gives us room to spin around them and evade like this. Unfortunately, we hopped over him. The little leapfrog. We couldn't swing after that, because if we swing, he blocks it with the shield, and if he blocks it with the shield, he immediately stands up and is ready to go. We don't want that. Especially with how fast he could whip out a full moon slash at any given point. It's rough. That was a pretty good fight. Obviously, we didn't take a hit, so yeah, it's a good one, but that's how you deal with living armor. It would have been better if we had an Angel's Fist instead of Dwells in Light. Angel's Fist is the hammer dragon weapon. That's because they still take, even though they're only vulnerable to magic damage in that phase, they still take more bludgeoning damage than Slash. So we would basically get, all things being equal, the same stats and everything. We would deal just straight up 30% additional damage for using Angel's Fist over Dwells in Light. The reality is also, I'm pretty sure Angel's Fist has slightly more damage on it. That's the case for normally for hammers between two. I don't know if that's the case for the magic hammer, because it's not something I looked up. I knew that we could only get a holy weapon from Dragon online, so we tried to kill Dragon online. We did get it, or actually we didn't. We got it as a reward. Not from Grace, although we did kill it during Grace, but we did not get it during that. We got it as a reward for contributions on a different run while we were still trying to gear up, and I was pretty happy with that. Obviously, we could have kept doing it and tried to get a Dwells in Light, an Angel's Fist, but we chose not to. The damage is slower this way, but it's not like it's impossible. And again, we have the Acuity Augments, so we have 20% additional magic damage, which is just valuable. If we had Dwells in Light, we probably wouldn't take Acuity. We might, just for the ghosts, but we probably wouldn't, just because we'd be getting 30% additional damage here instead of 20 with Acuity. Obviously, we could still take Acuity, it would be even better, but it's whatever. Not a big deal. And also, that math isn't quite right, because it's 20% additional magic, whereas he has 30% resistances, or rather, he only takes 70% of slash damage, so like the math doesn't work out the same way there as just 20 versus 30. So don't think I'm an idiot by saying things so simply, but it is just a simple way to consider it. Like we could have decided that, and it would have been an okay decision. But again, we would have noticed the difference when we fought the Wraiths earlier. The reason we chose to go with Dwells in Light or Angel's Fist for holy damage instead of just Boltbringer, which is RNG to obtain, but like we actually did obtain one. So we had it before we got either Dwells in Light or Angel's Fist, which of course we didn't get, but we did have it before Dwells in Light. The reason we chose not to use it is because Wraiths have 100% resistance to physical and 100% damage taken from magic sources, but they take 150% damage from holy. Phase 2 living armors, after their armor is broken, they just take 100% of magic damage. And then it's, for physical damage, it's 0% for physical damage, but they have slash versus bludgeoning, and it's 70% for slash and 100% for bludgeoning. So, holy damage versus lightning or Boltbringer, because Boltbringer actually has higher magic value, I'm pretty sure, than this weapon does. It would be better for this guy, but it would be considerably worse for ghosts. Like, it's a notable difference. Because the difference is only like 200 magic difference between this weapon and Boltbringer. Actually, I want to say it's less than that. I think it's like 150 magic with Acuity Augment or something like that. It's only like 150. But, I lost my train of thought. Oh, sorry, it's only like 150 damage, but gaining 50% additional damage on holy damage, changing our damage from like 1300 to like maybe 1500 with Boltbringer, but we lose out on an additional 50%. That is not worthwhile. So we want to have a holy weapon if we can, which is why we choose to go with Dwells in Light over Boltbringer. Again, Angel's Fist would still be better, but we don't have that. So Dwells in Light obviously suffices. And again, we're going to lure him into this arena because it's a big enough arena for us to actually evade him. The problem with trying to evade with Executions, or not Executioner, with Exodus Slash, as I mentioned before, is it leaves us in front of him, which is not what we want. We don't want to be in front of him because if we hit him with the Exodus Slash attack, he'll actually block at the same time. And when that happens, he can ready an attack immediately. And Full Moon Slash like that comes out pretty quick if he chooses to. So we don't want that. In addition, nice. In addition to that, we if he uses the attack where he swings 3 times, we don't actually have 3 sets of iframes on Exodus Slash. We only have 2. The second one is briefer than the first one. From my experience, it feels that way. I don't actually know the frame counts because I don't have anything to measure that. That's not entirely true. I haven't measured that, I guess. It would also be tricky to measure because it's not like I can see the active frames for the evasion. But anyway, if we evade the first swing with Exodus Slash and then the second swing with Exodus Slash, we will get hit by the third one. And like I said, he does like 1500 damage per swing. It's not comfortable. Oftentimes, like I said before, I am not good at the second evasion. So what will really happen is I probably get hit twice, and that's 3000 health gone. So it's not what I want. So typically we're just going to evade by moving out of the way. If I do get caught in a position where he swings at me with the 3 swing, you'll actually see I'll Exodus Slash sideways and then do the follow-up sideways as well to hopefully move myself out of the way of the 3rd swing. Because he does step forward when he does it like that. And it actually works pretty consistently when you do it that way. If you're right in front of him, evading like forward into him, like you normally would with other enemies perhaps, it's often that he just stops in front of you and he just keeps wailing on you and you get hit. If not on the second one, you definitely get hit on the 3rd one. So we just avoid that by, again, following Mr. Miyagi's advice. Best defense, no be there. For those of you who are younger, that is a reference to the original Karate Kid. This move that he's doing right here, the Stone Grove or Forest, I'm not sure which one he's doing, frankly. The Stone Grove attack there that he's doing is pretty much the best move he can do for us because we can hit him once before he gets the cast off, we can Exodus Slash the cast, and we get time to hit him a few times before he recovers and stands up. So that's actually the move we want him to do as often as possible. If you stand directly behind him after a Full Moon Slash, a lot of times he tries to rotate, like he'll strafe to get, he'll circle to kind of get in a better position for you. Sometimes you can just stay behind him and keep doing attacks on his back if you keep rotating with him. It is somewhat consistent, but not 100%. It's probably closer to like 60, for me at least. I don't know if it's because I mess it up often or because it just has like the chance that it doesn't do it. Because I've seen it where he just full moon slashes again. But oftentimes he doesn't. Like I said, there's probably like 60% chance that you get to stay behind him and just wail. And we do that occasionally, but only really if we're at full health and we can risk taking that hit. But again, I'm a very risk-averse player, so oftentimes I won't choose to go for that. Here, there's no way for me to pull any of them solo, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get like one to charge at me multiple times so that he gets ahead of the pack by a considerable amount. Unfortunately, they all kind of charged together there, so I have all of them together. My goal is to separate them out. If I get them separated, I get to attack one at a time. And that's what I want. That's also why you see I'm not knocking him down. I want him to travel as far as possible. Unfortunately, again, 2 of them made that. So I want one of them to get caught on something, and it's just not happening the same way. So I think in this run what we ended up doing is we fought them for like a little bit, and then as soon as we fought 2 of them, but as soon as the 3rd one showed up, we started kiting them back the other direction because it's just safer. It's very easy for us to die to 3 of them, not because they deal such great damage, because they kind of don't. We have really good physical defense. If they keep hitting us, we could get knocked down and then get stomped, and then that's an insta-kill. Not an insta-kill, I guess. It has the propensity to instantly kill us. It just isn't guaranteed. There he stopped short, so I got hit there. This one stopped short, so I almost get hit, but I was still in the iframes of recovery. So that was a little bit close. You'll see later, one of them's going to stop short like 3 times in a row. And it, like there he stopped short and did the hammer swing. I don't want him to stop short ever. I want to be able to hit him and knock him down. But when they stop short, I don't get that opportunity. Obviously, I would prefer to hit one over and over again so that it dies. I don't want it to just be alive, obviously. I want it to be killed. So long as I'm dealing damage to one of them, it doesn't really matter. I will take it. Because damage is damage. If I'm not dealing damage to any of them, that's kind of a waste. But as long as I'm dealing damage to at least one, I'm happy. Obviously, the best situation, again, would be to have one receive so much damage it dies before the other 2 are even close to the amount of health missing as it. That way, the engagement is just simpler. But that's not what happens. That's okay. Should be able to kill this one right here. There we go. Nice. And we're just gonna keep kiting them out. They're just like too close to each other. They're doing too much stuff at the same time or at very staggered times that it's becoming difficult to manage both at the same time, as far as like evading both together. So we're just gonna kite them out again. Hopefully make it so that we're not having that situation. I think this is where it happens. Maybe not. I want to say it's really soon, though. Yeah, so there I exited Slash because I thought he was gonna do his thing, but then he stopped short, so I don't get the stagger off, and he does it again, and then he does it again. So that was 3 times in a row where he did that. So I went from having almost full health. I think I was at 37 out of 3,800, and now I'm down to 3,000. On stream, I was really annoyed by that guy. Not that I was fuming or anything like that. I was just like, are you serious, game? What is happening? But fortunately, it's the only one left. Now it becomes an extremely easy fight. I'm going to start kiting him back towards where our objective is, which is the Bitterblack Sanctum. We'll get him with the throat cut at the end with the Exodus Slash. I'm full stamina, so I'm going to sprint for part of it. I believe I stopped sprinting after a moment so that I have my stamina for the fight. Not that we use a huge amount of stamina when we fight things, but yeah. I also don't really want to fight Death here. Death can spawn in this configuration, but he's kind of annoying because the buildings are in the way. You have to like lure him out to where it's comfortable to fight him, and that's just pretty much nowhere. So I just don't really want to deal with him. We did have him on the previous attempt. Daimon, first phase, I'm going to Torpor him. I am not very good at fighting Daimon's first phase. Part of that's because I'm very bad at climbing. I mean, very bad. So I don't know how people do it. But we're going to Torpor him. It takes like 2 or 3 heavy attacks. I should be using heavies. I shouldn't be using lights. I'm just got my brain turned off. There we got the evade off on the second iframe window. But again, I'm really bad at it usually. But anyway, once we get that done, we get to use Bitter End. Because he's torpored, I feel comfortable grabbing onto his head. We just got a hit there. He took out about 700 damage, 700 health rather, with that one hit. Because he's under 2.5 health bars, I know like that he's gonna start thinking about going to the middle to do Soul Vortex. Now that he's under 3, he's guaranteed to, so you'll see me hop off. Because I don't want to lose my stamina if I get, if I fail to stagger him, which shouldn't happen, but if I did fail to stagger him, I would have a situation where I don't have any curatives, so I would just die. I would get stuck and die. I should stagger him just because of how much damage we have, and we are using 2 sets of barbed nails, I believe. Yep. But this way is just a little safer. Now, here we can stagger him, but I have to get to the right spot, and I don't know that I'm in that spot yet. I need to hit him in the head every time, and we're kind of just not quite hitting him in the head. So I don't think we stagger him here. We'll probably take the damage. Yeah, we did. But if I had managed to place myself, and I should have approached him slowly instead. I should have like walked up, and then once I was in the right spot, I should have then commenced doing my jumping light attacks to hit the head repeatedly. But if we were in the right spot first, we can hit the... that's unfortunate. We can hit the head enough times that he does stagger there. We also can do it in the second phase, but I don't know why I switched weapons. I guess I thought I had him Torpor, but I certainly did not. Now I do. And he's doing a good move. It's something we could probably grab onto his face with. Yep. This time I'm going to climb over his head, because hopefully I'll be able to hit him without getting punched, but we still take about 1,100 damage there. Again, I don't know how people climb. Here we get a stagger off. That was almost the end of our run, because that probably would have killed us. We do not have very good magic defense. We have very good physical defense, but our magic defense is actually really bad. So I don't want to get hit by any of his magic if I can avoid it. Immolate probably would have killed us. I accidentally skipped the cutscene at the beginning of this fight because I was just on autopilot. But we'll let it play now. I love that line.
Look upon the truth.
Here I'm going to back up, because if it's Ingle, I can sidestep it if I'm far enough away. If it's Combustion, then I can just close the distance. It doesn't really matter. So, as someone who's bad at climbing, again, I don't know how people do it. Like, I don't see how people have the time to climb on this guy. Every time I climb on him, he just casts Levin at me or Immolate. I don't know how people manage to climb. But anyway, as someone who's bad at climbing, we're not going to really climb on this guy. There are two attacks that he does that I'm willing to climb. One was that light grab move that he did right after the Ingle, but I failed the grab. We almost got caught there because of the rubble. I failed the grab, so we didn't get to climb. The reason I would climb there is because he has a very large window where I get to climb up him and wail on his face before he can do anything. The other attack is if he does the Fire Breath attack, where he aims at you and then turns to a side and does a big Fire Breath swap move. That's the other attack that I'm willing to climb on, because that one lasts long enough that, again, I can climb up there and I can hit his face a few times. Then usually once it's done, I'm done. You can Exodus Slash. The Immolate, the timing for it is like once you hear the sound, you hit Exodus Slash. There's enough time between the sound and your iframes on Exodus Slash, Full Moon Slash, for you to start your Exodus Slash right when the sound goes off, and then you're good. You don't have to do it early. You don't have to predict. It's very easy and consistent. If you don't like the sound, you don't like the audio cue, you can also do it based off of when he does his crunch animation, because he kind of curls up a little bit, and then he does like a crunch at the end to demonstrate that's when he's going to explode the Immolate. You can use that as your cue. See right here, crunch. That's when you can start it. It's pretty consistent. That being said, that doesn't mean that it wouldn't kill me, because I want to say we did one where, one run where I was like almost full health, not quite, but I was very close to full health. In phase 2, Immolate literally almost one-shot me. Like it killed me from like 80% health. So you saw me run out of that one because I actually remembered that that was something that could happen, and my brain panicked and said I should run away because I'm risk averse. But then I remembered, you know what, I'm very good at dealing with the Exodus Slash there, so we're fine. Unfortunately, this is the Daimon fight. We do very poor damage because we can't hit him in any place that actually takes normal damage. His shins do not take normal damage. They take significantly reduced damage, just like hitting dragons outside of their wings or their hearts or their heads. They just don't take full damage. So we just kind of give this guy little bruises on his shins until he decides to do Soul Vortex. And then once he does Soul Vortex, we're happy. Because Soul Vortex, we can then hit him where he is weak, because it's close enough to us. Again, if you are adept at climbing, I am not, but if you are, climbing on him obviously works. But he's casted, what, Immolate like 10 times this run already, and we haven't even climbed on him once. We're just close, so it's a good example as to why I don't like it. I know he's about to Soul Vortex here, but usually he drifts around for like 20 seconds. Maybe not 20 seconds. He usually drifts around for probably like 10 to 15 seconds, trying to decide which direction he wants to face for it when it goes off. That's why I followed him into the middle, because I know that once he starts the animation, I still have time to run behind these columns. In this case, he actually started it pretty much immediately once he hit the middle, which is kind of a surprise. It's not a problem, obviously, but it is a surprise. And there, we got the stagger. Because again, we could jump up and we could get to hit him in the face. I'm gonna see how much Calamitous does. It doesn't actually do that much because half of our hits don't hit his weak point is the problem. Only like, you know, about half of them do, I guess. Half of them don't. So what ends up happening is we don't really get the damage off we want. Now I'm grabbing on because I know he's going to stand up soon, and I want to get the extra damage in because, like I said before, we do terrible things. And of course, the first thing he does is Immolate. We are very lucky we got that Exodus Slash off, because that probably could have killed us. But that's also why I use Heavy Attack to get down immediately. So Seism, if you are in the air when Seism goes off, you are not staggered by the earthquake effect. You don't get the jelly legs. You get to stay, you know, with whatever stability you have. So that's why we do the jump. We did the extra swing during it, not because we wanted to hit him, but because we know. See, that's something I would have grabbed onto his ankle for if he didn't have the combustion between him and I. But anyway, we do the extra swing because it gives us just an extra second of lift. Extra second of lift time for the jump. So it just makes it slightly easier for us to get the dodge on the Seism. So that was an angle. You see I go behind him when he casts fire spells because if he casts single, if I'm behind him, he usually cannot cast it backwards. Only Combustion or Bolide. I can't actually see Combustion most of the time because the red design on the ground is not good for us, for my vision, because I'm red-green colorblind. I just lose where Combustion is. Because it doesn't have a big enough effect for me to see it, usually. In this specific room, I mean. Not all the time, just in this room. So, I assumed it was Combustion. I ran away because I didn't see the bolide balls. But then I realized it was Ingle because Combustion fires didn't sprout up. But you'll see that I'll always try and maneuver myself behind him when he's casting a fire move. Because if it does happen to be Ingle, it basically helps us make sure that he doesn't hit us. It just kind of disappears if he was choosing to cast Ingle. Just a little trick to evade damage. Especially when you're like me, you don't have that much magic defense. And we don't. We have like 1,200 physical defense and like 300 magic. I did not count how many immolates this was. I kind of wish I did. It's a lot of immolates for 0 climbing going on. I guess we've climbed one time, and it was him coming out of his defensive curl after Solar Vortex. The arm swipes, you'll see I kind of stand still and wait for them to come when I know that he's doing it. It's because we want to make sure that we have time for the exit slash. The arm swipes are pretty dangerous. Size them again, jumping swing so that we have the extra airtime, so that we evade the jelly legs. If you get hit with jelly legs, you can run out still. You usually have time. Here, I'm moving all the way out here because I'm afraid he's going to Soul Vortex, because he can. He doesn't, obviously, but I'm afraid he's going to Soul Vortex, so I want to be close to those columns so that I can line of sight it. But yeah, just size him on its own isn't too bad, because even if you get hit with jelly legs, you can typically sprint out so long as you have the stamina to do so, of course. However, I think we get hit here, actually, because Bolide comes at a very specific angle. Bolide comes at, and it comes through us. Look at how far away from that circle we are. We're good. Maybe it's a different one. I remember us getting almost killed because of the Bolide. We'll see it. Like, we'll be outside of the circle by a decent amount, and then the Bolide comes at just the right angle that it screams through us before hitting the target on the ground. It's probably on this one. Because we're running out of time. That guy's got his last health bar. Alright, look how far away we are. Yeah. We were so far away, but the Bolide, like, just screams through us and takes out, like, 80% of our health bar. And that's because we have really bad magic defense, like I said before. I stopped there because I wanted to make sure that I had the exit slash. Unfortunately, we have the "you are low health" audio now. You'll see me here panic about Bolides, because if we get hit by another one, we die. Bolide, the direction that it'll come from is very specific to where the caster was facing when they let it off. I wasn't really paying attention So I don't know. What's good about Bolide is the first meteor comes down, and the subsequent meteors will always follow the same direction. So if you know the meteors are coming from, like, let's say north and headed south, then if you just stay to the south side of the indicated target, you will be fine. Fortunately, we don't get hit by another one. We do survive, and we get the kill. Right there. All in all, a pretty good warrior run, actually. We probably could have just had one piece of health regen armor on, and we would have been totally fine, which means we could have used the Hellfire version. We would have had actually better defenses. We also could have had, like, we could have gotten the ones with the stability augment for the boots attached, and then we could have put a different augment on instead, which would have also been valuable. I probably would have gone for, I think, Opportunism, which increases damage when you are climbing. That would have been useful on both Gazer as well as Daimon. But that's okay. Not all of our runs were this clean. But at any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoy playing Warrior. It's a lot of fun. It has its frustrating moments for sure, but it is very fun. I hope you guys give it a shot if you haven't yourself. For whatever reason we were in the air there. That's always fun. But thank you guys for watching. You should check out our stream, twitch.tv/localticobrohe. I stream Monday through Friday. We are starting a Ranger run, so I look forward to seeing you guys there. Have a good one. Cheers.